This is Clarence Carter Boucher with Excellent Pens. I'm about to review a Jinhao fountain pen. Now you might wonder why a Jinhao would be reviewed on a site called Excellent Pens. I consider them one of the bottom level entry fountain pens. However, what they have proven to be excellent at is as a foundation to make a Frankenpen. So if you want to experiment with putting different nibs in a fountain pen, like taking for instance, a dip nib and sticking it in a fountain pen to see how it does, something like the Nico G nib is an excellent choice if you're trying flex nibs. You can put dip nib italic nibs, like some of the speedball nibs that have an overfeed. You can try a lot of different things in these. So this one came with a custom italic nib. I think they just took a Jinhao and ground it. That would be what it appears to be. And all right, so the way you fill it, you unscrew it. It has a feed that is a piston feed. You simply dip the nib in the ink and you turn the nib. You need to make sure it's all the way in, which you turn it counterclockwise, then turn it clockwise to fill it. And you can actually see because the feed is clear. And here's this Jinhao with this italic nib. And it does write in a typical italic fashion. That is, when you're going sideways, it's thin. When you come down, it's broad. You can squeeze the tiniest bit of flex out of it, but not really. I wouldn't call this a flex pen at all. I would just refer to it as an italic. And, you know, it's really more for doing the old italic style writing, which I have not practiced in quite a long time. Stuff more like that. Or the kind of thing with the drops. Like I said, I haven't been practicing that kind of stuff. All right. And it writes okay. You can get these off eBay. I don't remember the guy's name, but if you just look for a Jinhao with an italic nib, he's selling these. They're a custom grind. They're not bad. But what makes these pens so good for Frankenpens is you can simply slide that nib out. You just grab hold of it. I usually use a cloth, or I have a couple of pairs of pliers with tape around the ends that I'll just grab it and pull it off. And then you can just slide another nib in there. You do need this large number 6 size nib if you're using the Jinhao 159, which is what this is. But they make smaller pens, so you get a Jinhao that has the size nib you want to experiment with. Since they're so cheap, I'd have to write them as an excellent experiment into the Frankenpen category. I like the piston style feed they come with. They're incredibly cheap, and they look it. But for a platform to experiment with, I'd have to say it's pretty excellent for the price. I paid anywhere from $1.50 to $10 for these. I think one time I went up to $15. It had shipped with free shipping. But you can regularly get them in that price range in a broad variety of colors and styles and things. So it's a good Frankenpen starter set. I'll get you your... Okay, here's the Frankenpen on a smooth journal. Had a little bit of non-grab there at the start. You can see there's a variation to the line width just from the fact that it is such a wide nib, being italic. So downstrokes are big, sideways strokes are thin, and you can kind of twist your hand and do a thin upstroke. See, by twisting my hand and then bringing it back down, you can do a thin upstroke and a wide downstroke. It smears like crazy. It's very wet because it's an italic. It lays a lot of ink down. Okay, and let's see how it does on a ledger pad. I mean, not a ledger pad. What am I saying? This is moleskin. Tends to cut the paper just a little bit if you get going too fast. And here's a crosshatch. Look how wet that was. All right, and that's because it's an italic. It just lays down a lot of ink. Okay, let's go back to getting some measurements. And got some weird thing going on with my caliper, so I'm just going to measure this the old way. Getting 5 7/8. That is a big pen on that, and without the cap, I'm getting 5. So capped 5 7/8. Uncapped 5. It may not always seem it, but I try and keep these videos fairly short. I did the measurements, and the section is particularly tricky on a pen like this because it tapers. So what I do is I measure at the smallest point and the largest point, and your true grip point is probably somewhere in between, but you can see how this tapers. And so I got between 0.46 and 0.53. I know another one I measured, I got between 0.43 and 0.53. So there's some variation there. Okay.